I want to see what my boy Athletic Academy has to say about Jimmy Butler's debut. Let's get into the video, man.
All right, y'all, I got to admit,
Talk to me.
the gap between Wiggs and Jimmy Butler
What?
might be a little bigger than I thought. Might be a little bigger than I thought.
Damn.
And I think you saw that on the faces of Steph, Steve, and the Warriors last night.
Right.
Because by all accounts, this
Wiggins
trade was made by the front office.
First of all, I got to see how Jimmy is on a consistent night. I feel like he's going to be consistent. I'm not going to lie.
By Mike and Joe in the front office, where Kerr, the coaching staff, and the players, I think you could see during the press conferences and during the last 48 hours or so, like they were kind of disappointed. They were sad, and it wasn't something that maybe they were fully on board with, even if they agreed upon it, right? But you know what it kind of reminds me of is, you know, when you're a kid, your parents make you do something, you really don't want to do it, but then after you do it,
it's like,
you're like, all right, you were right, you were right, it was fun. You were right, it was fun. Kind of feels like that may be this situation, myself included. Now, this is just one game against a bad Bulls team, which almost was disastrous. It was right, like, I'm not gonna lie, like,
because I saw a 25-point lead. I'm like, damn.
Beginning of that third quarter, I was crashing out like Montoya. Subtitles and all, and I don't even speak Spanish. Like, I was crashed out because it was just like, oh, this is all gonna fall apart, right? And I get the Bulls were hot, but it was like, dude, if we're not even gonna be competitive.
What has lasted?
What? They be giving me the craziest ads.
After this all-in move, all belief will be lost, right? It would just be such a disaster. But I think the first and most important thing was, from the start, you saw Steph had more juice, right? And look, Steph is super self-aware and aware of everything, right? He's a super smart dude. And there's no doubt that they were sad to lose their brothers and lose Wiggs and what he's meant to the team. But there's also an optic of not celebrating a trade because of how it looks, right? Like, oh, we got a better player. Like, oh, right. You know what I'm saying? But for whatever the reason, I think there were multiple reasons. One, Steph was kind of due for one of these vintage performances. But I also think that there was an element, an urgency of, all right, we're all in with this move, and there seems to be some more belief, some more juice, and it could just be a honeymoon phase. But Steph bails us out in that third quarter. But let's talk about the man of the hour, Jimmy. Not to dismiss Steph's performance, right? But he was kind of due for one of those, right? And it was interesting that it came in the debut of Jimmy Butler. You kind of see what's happening with the Lakers, who they've been rolling a little bit, but you can see LeBron kind of showing out with Luka on the bench, right? There's this element of that, right?
Man. But wait until Luka plays, man. You gonna see that bitch on every timeline. You scroll this, Luka. Oh, LeBron, Luka. I'm telling you, cuz.
Jimmy Butler. Look, he may be an ass, a troll, right? Kind of like rubs people the wrong way, but no one's ever accused him of being a dummy. He's no dummy.
For sure.
Right? And you've listened to everything he said since he's joined the Warriors, and he said all the right things. And that's kind of like the catch-22 of that. Because he is smart, he knows to say all the right things. But at the same time, it's better than saying just being outlandish and dumb, right? But let's get to his game here, because the first thing that stood out to me, and I'm going to compare him to Wiggins, and it's not to shit on Wiggs or this, but that's right. That's the void he's filling. That was the trade. Is Jimmy surveys the floor. Wiggins, like a lot of today's players, I compare it to 2K, where they've done so many drills in their bag, right? Where it's almost where they hit a button and then they get into their animation, and that's right? And Wiggins is very effective with that. At his size, his athleticism, right? His little bunny and his move set. It's like once he pushes the button, the animation takes over, and that's what's going to happen. Where Jimmy is like constantly surveying and reading the defense and the angles. And that's just like what Steve said post-game. I think that's what I was most surprised with, was the passing and his playmaking ability, and being like, oh, that's definitely a different wrinkle, right? Because what we asked of Wiggs was, hey, we need you to score and defend. And that's basically it. And now all of a sudden you've got another playmaking hub who can score, and you knew he was going to get to the line, right? And then the other element, you heard Draymond talking about he's such a good target. He's such a good target. And look, he's physical and he's athletic, but what I was taken back by was he was catching these passes at these crazy angles, essentially with his back to the basket. And no matter where he caught it and how high he had to go up to catch the ball, some of them 50-50 balls, he knew exactly where the rim was. And that's a very underrated skill. I know Draymond's saying it's underrated to be a good target, but it's one thing to come down with the ball. It's another thing to finish the play. And that's where he is super elite, just spatial awareness and then the English and the ability to create angles. He's just a far more creative and dynamic offensive player than Andrew Wiggins. Where we did miss Wiggs was that point of attack defense. And you look at Kobe White, looked like prime Damian Lillard last night. That was crazy.
Really?
But the combination of him and Dosunmu, they're two of the quicker, burstier guards in the league. Their first step, they get a head full of steam, and you saw them really punish us with that pace in the first half, and then they just got hot from three. But back to Jimmy and how intriguing this did look. Because again, the passing, and the other thing that you heard them say was, well, we just kept it simple because he couldn't practice because of some sort of paperwork and stuff like that, but we just kept it simple.
What the nigga didn't practice? This was his first game and practice with these niggas? Nah, and you put up 25? That is crazy. Wait until that nigga get some practice under his belt, nigga. What?
And simple basketball generates simple shots. And you saw Quentin Post once again outplay Vucevic, right? And just the simplicity of there was a
QP
play
like that?
where Moses had the ball on the wing and Jimmy was calling it for on the post. Kobe White was fronting him and Trey Jones came and tried to double from the weak side. And Moody looked at it and then just made an easy skip pass to Pods for a three. It was such an easy read for Moses as opposed to all this action and cuts and slips and trying to where there's these multiple reads. It was just okay, that's not there. Here's the easy pass. And again, it's going to generate easier and more simple shots. And I think, we need that. With the turnovers and all the offensive drought and stuff like that, that's a big deal. But again, man, before the Steph, how quickly I had someone say, hey, Alk, you owe Jimmy an apology.
Oh, shit, what'd you say?
Or this video didn't age well. And it's why are we so quick to take victory laps? Look, I hope I'm sitting here in a month and being dude, I was completely wrong about this move. And this is the best thing that could have happened. Jimmy, I've fallen in love with Jimmy as a basketball player. And after one game, it feels like that might be the case, right? But again, one game against a terrible Bulls defense.
You're right, and you
where
are right.
It was almost a disaster. How different would this conversation be today if Steph didn't get hot in that third quarter?
That's crazy.
Right? All of a sudden, there'd be people that say, oh my God, this was a disaster. So I understand, listen, my captions, the thumbnails, and we live in this knee-jerk reaction world, but let's not take victory laps on however you felt about this deal quite yet. After one game.
Right, you right.
But man, is it exciting, right? Man, is it exciting. And
25 points.
Now, the other thing that I want to bring
practice?
up that I'm curious in is this Jimmy Draymond relationship. And you heard Steve say he's a lion, right? I thought that was a good term. It's you ever see the lion out on the plain, right? Just like king of the jungle shit. There's an aura to Jimmy and a confidence. It's interesting because I think he's going to help the young guys get simple shots and simplify the offense, right? But I thought the main point that Steve made was he gives Draymond and Steph a confidence, a swagger, right? And that's the other thing that, Wiggins didn't necessarily provide was there was a clip of Jimmy talking to Steph on the bench.
Damn, that didn't say you had no aura.
We understand this is his first game, so there's some logistic stuff that there's going to be communicating. But not in the 4 or 5 years that Wiggins played for this team had I ever seen that type of conversation where it was just a back and forth of you want to do this? You want to do this stuff? And it dawned on me, not only does Jimmy on the court provide a playmaker and some pressure off of Steph that way, basketball wise, I think that he relieves pressure emotionally as a leader for Steph, someone else who takes responsibility for what's happening with the team and communicating. And that's a huge deal. But back to the Draymond thing. You heard that Jimmy gave him that work playing dominoes on the team plane, and they're going to compete, right? Two dogs. We've talked about that, but I sense.
Come on, cuz. Yeah, they're gonna be chill.
I sensed like a little bit of
what?
Like Draymond's been kind of just like worked up of late. I don't blame him the way LeBron was taunting him, right? But I feel like there's an element of Draymond kind of realizing, hey, I might like. How does Draymond? Here's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
How does Draymond respond to Jimmy becoming the true number 2? Something we really haven't had since prime KD, right? Where it seems as though, again, one game, but like Jimmy's going to get a lot of the spotlight and a lot of the credit if we start winning, and probably rightfully so. But how does Draymond feel about kind of being less in the spotlight? And not only that, but Draymond has forever been the alpha of this locker room.
For sure.
Jimmy is just a natural out. Steve's already calling him a lion. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
and
God,
so I'm not saying that that's gonna. I'm just curious to see how Draymond responds to this. Hopefully, it becomes kind of like an Andre dynamic, where that was such a big part of Andre's locker room presence with this team. It was someone that would check Draymond. You know what I'm saying? And so hopefully that's fine. And I expect Draymond at this age and with all that he's done, and especially if we start winning, it'll be fine, right? But I expect Draymond to raise his game,
right? Because
let's be honest, in the last 3 or 4 years, like Draymond and all the stuff that's happened, a part of it is Draymond knows we need him, right? And I get the sense that Draymond, and it is again one game, I keep saying that, but is he going to start to sense like maybe they don't with his presence? Maybe I'm not as necessary with Jimmy here, and so hopefully that just makes Draymond raise his game. So
we can hope for that.
That's the one thing that crossed my mind. Big picture with the locker room stuff. But if you want my thoughts, the play-by-play and in the schematics and more of it, the link will be in the description. I've got like a 14-minute breakdown, as I do of every Warrior game.
All right, y'all boys. Athletic Academy gave me his thoughts. What are y'all thoughts? Put it in the comments. Was this a good trade? Should we have kept Wiggins? Is this going to be a dynamic duo or trio? You feel me, with Draymond? I love y'all, boys. We hit 5, on the road to 6. Peace, man. Peace.